Hello and welcome back to the Sorted Post-Purchase podcast. I'm Shaun Weston and I'm in the Sorted virtual studio with Vickey and Phoebe today. Would you mind introducing yourselves to the listeners, please, Phoebe?
Yeah, of course. So hi, I'm Phoebe. I'm from the partnerships team at what3words. Been with the business around 5.5 years. The reason I'm here today is I work across all of our e-commerce and logistics software integrations. So any partnership that takes place in this space is what I handle. And I've been working with Vickey and the Sorted crew for a while now on a really exciting partnership, which I'm looking forward to talk about today.
And that's a nice segue to Vickey. Can you introduce yourself, my colleague,
I
Vickey?
can. Yes, I'm Vickey Hill, Carrier Director for Sorted. I've been with the business for 9 years and my background is within carrier networks before moving into software. My responsibilities are managing the relationships with our carrier partners and also align into our development teams that build out the integrations.
All right, well, we've got a few things to discuss in this short time, but would it be prudent, I think, to begin by briefly explaining what each of us does so that the connection we'll talk about makes more sense? I guess, Phoebe, it might be good to describe what 3 words to a complete novice. How would you describe what 3 words to a complete novice?
Yeah, of course. I guess off the bat, I'd probably say what3words high level is kind of the easiest way to talk about a precise location. What that means in practice is that we are an addressing system, much like a street address or a GPS lat long. But what we have done is divide the world into 3 meter by 3 meter squares and give each one a unique 3-word reference. So you can reference anywhere in the world using 3 dictionary words. Why did we do that? We wanted to design a system that was really human friendly to use, but just as precise as a GPS, so that anyone can talk about anywhere in the world really, really easily, particularly in this kind of e-commerce logistics space. There are a lot of addressing inaccuracies. Street addresses weren't necessarily designed for the way that we use them in this modern landscape. And so we wanted to, as I say, develop a solution that really helps customers provide the exact address for their front door, so that carriers can really find them very, very easily.
The perfect thing, in my opinion, but let's not go down that my fan appreciation of what 3 words. Vickey, the average person on the street may not know Sorted and what we do, so how would you describe Sorted to them?
Yeah, so Sorted kind of sit behind the carriers and the retailers, so we are pretty much invisible unless you are lucky enough to receive a parcel at your door with the Sorted logo on. And we are sat right in the middle of facilitating that data. So the data that the retailers supply for orders that are being shipped comes into our system, and we will then use that to pass it through to the different carriers. So we really sit at the heart of facilitating that data to get the delivery to your door. From an address perspective, it could also be email and SMS. And as we see here, this delivery enhancement for what 3 words for address location.
Yeah, well, thank you both for that. So we are actually talking about the importance of delivery accuracy today and its challenges. So let's kick off with an understanding of what we mean by right time delivery and why it's critical in the delivery industry. I mean, it's not a complicated concept, is it? That the machine that ensures it happens can be incredibly complex.
It can, yes. I don't think really end consumers would sort of take stock of what needs to happen behind the scenes from that order being placed to pick through the retailer's warehouse into the carrier's network and out to the delivery depot. And that's where really we're at the final mile aspect of it, of getting that delivery. So it's gone through this whole journey of getting through to the carrier, but the end bit is the important bit of getting it delivered. And of course, if there are problems with the address, it can then incur delays. So if the driver has got that out while he's out delivering on his round and he's unable to locate it, he's probably going to try and resolve it as quickly as he can. But in some cases, that parcel would need to come back to the depot for then further investigation. So by that parcel coming back to the depot, that means that it's unlikely to get delivered on the day that it was promised for. So we're then into the aspects of then a late delivery, not by any fault of the carrier as such, but that parcel needs to come back into the depot and look at, making contact with the consumer, looking at different tooling to get there. So the first aspect is the delay to the delivery. And of course, if that parcel, once it is resolved, needs to go back out on the road, that's an additional cost then to the carrier to take that parcel out for another journey. In the meantime, the consumer may be contacting the retailer or the carrier. So, we all know a term of WISMO, where is my order? And again, there's cost involved in that.
I've said it many times, Vicky. I've said it many times.
Where is my order? So, of course, that again incurs cost for somebody in the call centre to then, take that call, explain what the delay is on that. So there's a lot of hidden costs around that, that delivery not happening first time.
Do we know what those costs are? What is the average fail cost now because of location problems? Do we have those figures?
Have you got anything, Pete? I know what it used to be. I've not looked at it for a while, but it's probably...
Yeah, it's difficult to break it down specifically for kind of exclusively addressing issues, but there's definitely kind of data flying around all the time. I think we often refer to those hidden costs as well, as you mentioned. Me myself, I used to work in the e-commerce industry, so I'm definitely used to receiving those where as my orders, and I think there's that cost of the calls coming in to increase time with customer service professionals. There is definitely a cost on kind of failed first deliveries. I think it can sometimes sit around kind of £13-14. But I know that figure kind of changes depending on peak, depending on market, depending on vertical, and depending on carrier as well.
I've heard that figure before as well. And just to clarify that, we're talking £13-14 per delivery. So that's per location. That's an awful lot to fail on, isn't it? Just simply because you cannot find that place. So we may not have the most accurate numbers with us today, but I would think that rural addresses and perhaps outdated mapping systems, are they possibly the two biggest causes of failing because of location problems?
I think it's quite interesting. I think obviously the knee-jerk reaction when you hear about kind of poor addresses is to go for rural areas. I think we've all had first-hand experience of getting lost in the countryside trying to find someone's house. I think, you have in the database, it might be a number, but on the order, they provided a house name. You have kind of those discrepancies or multiple properties to one postcode can definitely cause issues. Inaccurate geocoding. So kind of what I mean by that is that the pin on the map for the driver will drop in one place, but actually that's not where the property is. It's not where the front door is. I think PostTag did some research a few years ago and they found that kind of on average, it's 145 meters between the front door and actually where the geocode is.
Okay.
So that's obviously a pretty big distance. But it's not just in the rural locations. I think we often see that in the urban areas as well. I think you have, large office buildings or large office complexes with multiple entrances. The entrance that might be provided for a normal day-to-day user is completely different to the one that a delivery driver will need. And the pin usually just drops right in the middle, which is not very helpful for a driver who's, doing multiple deliveries per day, trying to be as quick as possible. They don't have time to kind of try and find the exact entrance they require. And then also you have kind of new build housing developments as well, which I think sometimes don't get addresses in the database for kind of 6 to 18 months, which if you're trying to get your new IKEA delivery is an absolute nightmare. So yeah, there's lots of reasons why addresses can be problematic and difficult. Inaccuracies in databases, rural areas, but yeah, it's also in urban. We kind of see it across the UK where what3words is used. It's definitely across the UK and different demographics.
Thing. The beauty of what3words, and you've already explained this, that it's that 3 meters by 3 meters, 10 feet by 10 feet to somebody else, and it makes me think of films like Seven or Back to the Future, where somehow a delivery is made to the middle of nowhere, and that has to help drivers reach the right spot, doesn't it? But getting to that square is the journey itself. So what does what3words integrate with, in other mapping systems? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we're very collaborative in the way we work. I mean, like obviously I mentioned I'm in the partnerships team, but no matter what industry we're in, we're always incredibly collaborative with the existing players in that space. That's where this partnership came out of over the last few years in e-commerce logistics. We've definitely been building out our partnerships with the carriers to make sure that they can accept a what3words address and use this for their routing sort of within their existing ecosystem alongside traditional street addresses, alongside the way that they use those existing systems. We just kind of integrate into that for the navigation. We also work with a lot of retailers, and now we're building out, which is really fun, kind of the technology partners who facilitate all of the information making it to the carrier partners. So, as I said, really excited to be working with Sorted now, which means that retailers, when they're accepting what3words addresses from those customers, from those difficult people to find, it means they can rest assured that if they're working with Sorted, that what3words address is going to make it to the carrier as well, and then can be used for that accurate navigation.
You've kind of already touched on this, Vicky, but can you break down those steps then? So what is the connection between the retailer that Phoebe's just mentioned and the final what3words destination? What does it look like at each step of that parcel's journey?
Yeah, so from the retailer capturing that in the checkout, each of the retailers would connect with the Sorted endpoint. So we have a number of different ones that cover from creation of the parcel to allocation. So we've created a string that will, or a metadata field that will allow that to be recognised. So the what3words is then recognised as the retailer passes that in to us. So as that passes in, we've then created the mapping with carriers, and we can extend that out to more carriers as it is adopted further. We will then map that information as it comes in from the retailer and pass that through to the carrier, either in the data manifest files that we're transmitting, throughout the day, or into if a carrier has an API integration, we will again pass that data through, and then they're free then to pass that into their systems. So it is pretty seamless. Once the hard work's done in opening that opportunity for the retailer to pass that through to us.
We just need to convince every retailer that we work with to sort of get on board this, because it's just common sense to me, I think. And I guess the crucial benefit, and there's benefits for everybody here, I think, but more crucially, it's for the customer, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. The consumer's the winner here. It's all the hard work we're doing behind the scenes, but it is really the consumer that, is going to see that full benefit of a first-time delivery.
I do like to think of it as a bit kind of like a triple win. The customer who's buying the product wins because they get it. They get the product on time as they expect. We all have quite short attention spans now. So as soon as we place an order, we expect it to be on our doorstep tomorrow. And we can hopefully help facilitate that kind of expectation. But then it's also a win for the retailer. They have fewer angry customers, as I mentioned earlier, kind of hopefully kind of improving that customer experience, and then for the carrier, they're really getting that efficiency gain as well through kind of potentially being able to do more deliveries in a day, making sure that their drivers aren't spending a lot of time on foot. So kind of a triple win there, and also Sorted obviously getting a little piece of the pie as well through being able to talk about it to lots of different customers and retailers as well.
Well, let's indulge you then. Let's say, how else is what3words being used outside of this e-commerce conversation?
I mean, I guess by the nature of what we do, I guess the short answer would be anywhere that you are sending or receiving a thing or a person. So what that comes down to is obviously e-commerce logistics is a big focus for us, but also beyond that, automotive, so cars is a huge focus for us as a company and as a business. We have had our system integrated into the actual navigation units of a lot of cars out there. So Mercedes, Jaguar, Land Rover, very cool. Lamborghini, Shaun, I'm sure you've got one of those at home.
Yeah, two.
He's got two, exactly. One in orange, one in lime green. So you can get into those and either speak or type or what3words address into that navigation unit, which is just a really enhanced experience. It means that you don't have the sat nav saying, you've arrived at your destination, and you look around and you think, I definitely haven't. And then obviously emergency services is always a huge focus for us, and it's probably where a lot of people have kind of come across us first, probably back several years ago. But now we are working with over 85% of the emergency services in the UK, and increasingly kind of globally as well. So in the Middle East, in the US, in a lot of East Asia as well. We're working across the world in lots of different verticals and places. Having been at the business for kind of 5.5 years, it's quite incredible to see the growth in where what3words is used, and it's used in the most incredible places and in different ways that we would have never even thought about. I mean, at Glastonbury this year, I think it was used kind of 1 in 3 times by festivals goers across the weekend, which is insane, because as someone who went to Glastonbury right when I first started working at what3words in 2019, and I tried to get my friends to use what3words. I tried to get people around me to use what3words because I thought this was the most amazing thing. It's going to help everyone. And no one knew what it was. To then go from that to this year was pretty cool to see.
And they knew about it, so a lot of the festival goers knew about it. Were you doing some advertising or anything there?
No advertising at all. It
Wow.
was just
1 in
people
3.
just using it and having it on their phones. And obviously the AA use it, and people might be worried about breaking down. But obviously it's a great way when you're in a crowd of 250,000 people of actually communicating where you are, instead of sending a really, really long text of explaining where you are opposite a stage.
Yeah,
I know my horse vet uses it as well, so they actually with a lot of things, being in fields and whatnot, and they do kind of promote that and say, give us the location, and our vets will use what3words to locate you. So
yeah,
every industry.
Yeah.
Well, that's another use case for me to take back to the team that we weren't aware of.
Well, not to be too serious, I will pick up on the rescue service side of things there, because there is a serious element here that I would, when you see those sad stories on the TV, people going missing, and we haven't been able to find them in a long time, and we've had some quite high profile instances of that recently. And the first thing that comes in my head is, put what3words on your phone. That's the phone call you make to your friend or your text message or to the emergency services. And that would be my advice, is to put what3words on your phone. First app you download, not TikTok. What3words. So it's great for the post-purchase delivery industry. It should be a great thing for everybody, I think. But before we sign off, let's have a bit of fun. So before the show, I asked both of you a question, that if you could be anywhere else right now, such as a fantasy holiday location, rather than sitting in a stuffy room listening to me, what is the what3words address for that fantasy location? So no spoilers, just the 3 words, please. Vicky, what's your fantasy location?
Embrace, inroads, bribing.
Embrace, inroads, bribing.
Bribing, yes.
Bribing, okay. I'm going to look that up after the show. Phoebe, what's yours?
Just pulling mine up. Give me a second. Been caught off guard. But I do know exactly where I would like to be.
Well, let me do mine first then. Mine is a place where I've enjoyed a cocktail or two, looking out across the water, watching seals dancing in the waves. Identify silently envelope.
Oh, that's a good one. Mine
Phoebe,
is
what's yours?
shares, gridded, backseat.
Shares,
Wow,
gridded,
random.
backseat. We're going to put these what3words addresses in the show notes for everyone to enjoy, and please send us your favourite pin drops as well. So Phoebe Parry-Crooke from what3words and Vickey Hill from Sorted, thank you for sharing your time today and talking about this fascinating subject.